Hey everyone, Kitsuragi here. Doing another video with me on camera. Go figure, I'm doing these again. Really fun topic that I wanted to actually kind of go over on this one. Since my last video, I have the brand new Victrix arcade stick. Love that thing. But I kind of actually wanted to go over because I've been asked a couple times about, hey, should I get a fight stick? You know, what kind of fight stick, blah, blah, all that fun stuff. And I've even been asked, hey, what do you think about using a keyboard? Because I don't want to use controllers anymore. Well, that's actually what this video is about. It's actually talking about kind of the differences and, feels of all the different type of controller setups you have. So obviously, we've got, first and foremost, we've got our basic, a normal controller. Everyone pretty much plays on this. An arcade stick, and then the other style of arcade stick is called a hitbox. So it doesn't have a joystick on it. It just has 4 buttons where your directionals would be. That's the kind of styles. I don't have a hitbox, but we can simulate it with an actual keyboard because that's exactly what a hitbox is pretty much a keyboard setup, just with a lot less buttons, a lot easier to use. But yeah, we're going to go over that. I'm going to kind of talk about a few of those things and showcase it. I won't really be on camera after we're done with this. I'm going to show you kind of how my hands work with a fighting game going on. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this. All right, starting off, we're going to go over the controller. A great little thing about the controller, a lot of people play controller. It's something that you're just used to. It's a normal thing. Like I said, I personally enjoy using an arcade stick, but that's personal preference. Controllers are always great. Controllers are really good for anyone that just wants to play and wants to learn. They might not be the best for your hands or things like that. Or they might be. Who knows? It's all up to the person who's playing. One big thing that I know some people dislike about controllers, or going against controllers, are charge characters. So charge characters usually you have to hold a button for a certain time and then do an opposite. So if I were playing Guile, it's like hold back for 2 seconds, then instantly forward and a punch, and you do Sonic Boom. With controllers, you can just, so I'm holding back and then I can push forward. This actually lets you do charges way easier. So it is a kind of a little cheap thing, but that's not a big deal to me. The great thing about controllers though, that I thoroughly enjoy, is you do have 2 options for movement. You do have your normal D-pad and your normal joystick. So you have that movement. Personally, I like using the joystick. It kind of feels a little bit better to me to do things. And if you guys see, like, all my buttons are all on one side, that's how I have it all set up. So I've got access to things like doing in Street Fighter 5, for instance, doing a V trigger right there, doing, my V skill. When I do certain things, of course, it would help if I did it right. EX moves, it's a little bit easier for me to do them because I'm doing this and this, and I'm not like gripping or doing things like that. Obviously, I have it all set up. So I have my punches here and there, my kicks. And if you're wondering, that's actually kind of the setup on my arcade stick. I'll show you guys a little bit later in the video on that, how that one works. But again, you have your 2 movement options. As everyone probably saw, I did switch. For me, doing dragon punches on a joystick like this, that's not my arcade stick, is a little hard. But doing it on the D-pad, pretty easy. But I tend not to, when I'm playing on controller, I tend not to switch a lot because it's just kind of annoying. But again, controllers aren't bad. I actually prefer using controllers on things like NetherRealm games, Injustice 2, Mortal Kombat. Those games which are strict down, forward moves, down, back, forward, back, forward, stuff like that. But that's where that kind of plays in. That's when I use controllers the most. For me, whenever I do play a fighting game, again, I prefer the arcade stick. But if I have to use a controller, I tend to stick with using my my joystick over anything, where I randomly will do that to do certain things. Because to me, this is a lot easier to using the joystick's a lot easier for me. Some people it's easier just to do the D-pad, but either way, it's a good way of playing games. This is completely viable, a very common way nowadays for people to play, and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, this video is not about, hey, what's better. It's all about showcasing everything and what I feel is good. There's no real negatives to any of these because they're all going to be personal preference for every single person. So next I'm going to showcase the arcade stick and how I play on the arcade stick. So I'll see you guys over in that video. Okay, new stage, new setup, all that fun stuff because I had to redo things. Arcade sticks. This is probably what a lot of people have seen or played fighting games on before. For me, this is a classic. This is something I'm used to. This is what I enjoy playing on, everything like that. Of course, you can see how it's all set up. All my buttons, when I was talking about my light or my heavy kick and heavy punch, were set up to being R1, R2 on that controller. You can see where they are on this, and you can see how my hand lays about it. Again, you still have that same movement. It's like the joystick on a controller, but it's also a D-pad in how things move. Of course, I'm messing up on things because I'm used to playing it more on my lap versus this. So, but again, you still have your ability to do things. And you have your ability to do everything. Again, it works just like the controller, but to some people, this is actually a little bit easier. And to me, legacy-wise, I have a lot more fun playing games, even though sometimes I mess up on inputs in this. But you can tell, you know, we have, again, my quick movement. I have all the same aspects, but to me, this is just something that feels more comfortable for me when playing a lot of fighting games. Obviously, again, I state that most fighting games I use this. But if it's in NetherRealms, I tend to stick to a controller a lot more often. Is this better than a controller than using this controller right here? Not really. It comes down to personal preference. To me, this is a lot more comfortable. This is a little more myself. Again, I'm not used to playing it up here. It's usually on my lap when I'm playing, so my hands are a little bit lower and things like that. But I want to be able to showcase everything to you guys and show how this works. You know. Of course, I'm showcasing on Street Fighter 5 because I don't have Street Fighter 6, but you know, it's not out yet. So we have that ability to do a lot of great things with this, with these. Again, it's not like they're worse than controller. It comes down to personal preference. Now, for the last thing I want to show, we're going to showcase hitbox style arcade stick. I don't have one, but we're going to be using the keyboard. So let me get that all set up for you guys, and we'll be right back. Okay, so finally for the last one, hitbox. We're going to simulate a hitbox using the keyboard because that's pretty much what hitboxes are, is using a keyboard. Usually when you start up any fighting game with mouse and keyboard, it's going to ask you to set up your controls for the keyboard, where your buttons are going to be, things like that. Street Fighter 5 makes it pretty easy and pretty natural. I have mine already set up. So I have here H, J, K, L as buttons, B and N as buttons, and then my directional U, I, O, P as buttons, and then A, S, D, and C as buttons. Now the A, S, D, C instead of A, S, W, D, why I did that is C for crouching. A and D are so my left and right, but instead of S being down, S is my up, my jump. And then I've got my kicks here. There's low, medium, heavy. Punches, low or light, medium, heavy, and then extra button. So I have those. So how do hitboxes work? And that's kind of the big thing. How do hitboxes work? How do keyboards work when you don't have that full motion like a controller or a arcade stick has? Well, simple. I want to get my fuhas all set up. They're down to forward motions. Down, forward, down, forward, down, forward. So I can easily just down, forward, down, forward, down, forward. So there's my fireball motion right there. Well, what about dragon punches? If you don't know what a dragon punch is, it is a forward to down forward motion, usually wake ups, and it's usually a punch. So how does it work on a keyboard or a hitbox? Simply forward, down, forward, pretty much. So I'm doing this. Nope, there's my punches. So I have that. So I do have that. Of course, I still can do down to back, kick, and then supers, down, back, to kick, and you have that. So hitboxes are, in fact, a great way of learning to play, especially if you're playing on a keyboard. And you can learn how to do your combos. And execute them as such. So it gives you an opportunity to play a fighting game if you've never played one. And still do all the stuff that the pros do. And be able to execute whatever you need to. Oh. I say that and I'm messing up doing the super, but it does give you that opportunity to do things. And you have everything still readily available to you, and it works just fine. But this is exactly what a hitbox is literally a keyboard, just it's 12 buttons instead of 8 buttons, and it's a great thing. It really is. This is a great way of playing as well. In fact, some people think this is more of a cheating way because it's so simple to just do a fireball motion. You know, I can fireball doing that. But on the flip side, if I want to do a dragon punch, if I want to do a Z motion, I gotta do a little more to it. But I still have that ability to do it. Pulling off supers, again, you can do it. It seems more difficult, but it's not. And once you get used to it, they're really great ways of doing it. Like I said, the next arcade sticks I want to get is a hitbox. So, but there's all that. So we'll go on and finish up everything here on the video. And there's my little explanations for all three things that you can use in fighting games. They're all three viable options and everything like that. A lot of the time, I know a lot of fighting game players get asked the question, is an arcade stick better? No. It's all personal preference. I personally learned how to play fighting games on an arcade stick, or get better at them on an arcade stick, even though my first introduction was Street Fighter 2 on the Super Nintendo. So I learned how to play on a controller too. So I've always been able to play on a controller, and that's why I usually, when I state NetherRealms games, Injustice 2, Mortal Kombat, those games, I tend to play on a controller. They just feel a little more natural to me. But with a lot of other fighting games, I tend to use an arcade stick. I like having a joystick and everything like that. But again, with the additions of hitboxes, they're great Hitboxes are amazing for people that want to play a fighting game but don't want to learn how to do the motions with their hands and doing all that movement. They get just buttons that they can hit. If you want hit buttons, hitboxes are the way to go. And you've got one right there. Most people do. If you have a mouse and keyboard, if you're playing on the PC, you have a hitbox right there with your keyboard, and they work amazing. They really do. For the longest time, I was like really against playing fighting games using a keyboard because of that. With the introductions of hitboxes and it being a lot more viable and understanding it, they're great. They're really great ways of playing games, playing fighting games specifically for people who want to get into fighting games on the PC that don't have a console. You have your perfect controller right there for you. Is it going to be the best thing for them? Maybe not. Maybe they will be better with a controller. Maybe they'll be better with an arcade stick. It's always hard to say. And that's the big point of this entire video is if you're going to play fighting games, play a fighting game that you want to enjoy, but use the controller you feel comfortable with. If you go to an arcade, if there are any around, and you want to try, play a fighting game at the arcade. Feel how the arcade stick feels in your hands and those buttons. If it doesn't feel good to you, don't play using an arcade stick. If a hitbox just feels too weird for you, if trying to navigate and figure out how you're going to place your buttons on your keyboard, it's just too weird, play a controller. But no one's going to fault you for it. You can find what works best for you just by experimenting and having fun with it. That's really kind of the big thing. Do hitboxes make you a better player? No. Does an arcade stick make you a better player? No. Does a controller make you a better player? No. You're all on the same ground. You're just learning. And that's the big thing is, yeah, it's trial and error in fighting games and you're going to get beat down a lot. But if you take one thing away, it's always a good thing. That means you're learning as you go. Maybe sometimes you have to take a break and step away from that fighting game because it always does. But yeah, when it comes down to controllers, guys, use what you feel is best for you, not what everyone else is using. But of course, guys, that's it for this video. As always, if you guys enjoy this content, like, share with a friend, and consider subscribing. Of course, I will see you guys all later. Till next time, take care.